What if the smallest act of kindness you ever gave became the reason someone survived, succeeded, and eventually saved your life? Years after a desperate teenager received a little help from a stranger, fate would bring them together again, but neither of them knew what was coming. Daniel was 12 when his mother died. After that, home became a two-person world. Daniel and his father Marcus, a factory worker who spent long hours around machines just to keep food on the table. Money was always tight, but Marcus refused to let poverty decide his son's future. Every morning, he left before sunrise. Daniel went to school, came home, cleaned the apartment, and prepared dinner. He was still a child, yet he had learned not to ask his father for things they couldn't afford. One winter evening, Marcus returned to find Daniel coughing beside a smoky stove. "You shouldn't be doing this alone," Marcus said, rushing to open the window. Daniel wiped his eyes and smiled. "You already work enough, let me handle dinner." Marcus stared at him for a moment, then laughed softly. "Tonight, I'm buying us burgers." It wasn't much, but to Daniel, it felt like a celebration. Daniel studied harder than anyone in his class. His father had one dream, to see his son become a doctor. Daniel carried that dream everywhere. Then, without warning, everything collapsed. A machine accident at the factory left Marcus permanently disabled. After months in the hospital, he returned home, unable to work. One night, staring at the floor, he whispered, "I wanted to give you everything. Now I can't even give you a chance." Daniel sat beside him. "You gave me the chance already," he said. "Now let me do something with it." From then on, Daniel built his future, one exhausting day at a time. He studied before school. After classes, he went door to door selling cleaning products. Whatever he earned went toward food, school expenses, and his father's care. Then came the day his college application was due. Daniel had worked all week, but barely sold anything. By late afternoon, he hadn't made a single sale. His stomach was empty, his feet hurt, and the deadline was hours away. For the first time, the future he'd worked so hard for seemed to be slipping away, not because he had failed, but because he simply couldn't afford one final step. He stopped at one final house. When the door opened, an older woman named Helen immediately noticed how exhausted he looked. "You don't need to sell me anything," she said. "Come inside and eat first." Daniel hesitated, then accepted. Over a plate of food, he explained everything: the accident, his father's school, and the money he still needed to submit his application. "How much?" Helen asked. "About $40. She disappeared into another room and returned with cash. "Take it, go finish your application." Daniel froze. "I can't promise when I'll repay you." Helen smiled. "You don't have to." He ran through the streets that evening and submitted his application just before the deadline. Years passed. Daniel became Dr. Daniel Carter, a respected physician who eventually opened his own private hospital. His father lived long enough to see the dream come true. But Daniel never forgot Helen. Then, one afternoon, an ambulance brought in a critically ill elderly woman. She was alone, severely ill, and had no money for treatment. Daniel examined her chart. "Start treatment immediately." A junior doctor hesitated. "Doctor, she can't afford this." Daniel looked at him. "Then we'll find another way. She still deserves to live." For weeks, Daniel personally monitored her recovery. Eventually, Helen was strong enough to leave. At the reception desk, a nurse handed her an envelope. Helen's hands trembled as she opened it, expecting an enormous bill. Instead, there was only a note. "Your treatment has already been paid for. Years ago, you helped a boy who was trying to afford college. That boy never forgot you." Helen looked up. Daniel was standing in the doorway. "It's me," he said quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. "I wondered what happened to you." Daniel smiled. "You gave me more than money that day. You gave me permission to believe my life could become something different. This is the first chance I've had to thank you." Helen covered her face and cried. And Daniel understood something he had carried for years. Kindness doesn't always return through the same person, in the same form, or at the same time. Sometimes a few dollars buys a meal. Sometimes it buys a future. And sometimes, years later, it comes back as a second chance when you need it most. Never assume a small act is small. You may have no idea how far it will travel,